Hi everyone and welcome to Eden's Secret. Today we're actually making some cupcake soaps. I haven't made any of those for ages for YouTube. So the fragrance we're going to use today is Snow Pixie from Oasis Oils. Now the Snow Fairy from the Soap Kitchen, which was Soap Supplier, their Snow Fairy I'm pretty sure is the same as the Snow Pixie. Soap Supplier, the Soap Kitchen, sorry, they changed the name of the company. They bought the Soap Kitchen, so I just kind of get out of the habit of saying the wrong name. Yeah, so the Soap Kitchen, they don't have Snow Fairy in stock. At least they didn't the other day when I had a look. So maybe it's discontinued. So if you want that and you want just a gooder version, if not better, go for the Oasis oils. It might be a little bit stronger, I'm not sure, but the great thing about this Snow Fairy, Snow Pixie, it holds very, very well in cold processed soap, and it does have a very slight discoloration. Not sure if this Oasis Oils one does, but we're going to find out. So let's get on and make some cupcakes, shall we? So I love peachy pink. It's just one of my favourite colours. I prefer a peachier pink than a regular pink, if you know what I mean. I don't want a fluorescent pink. So I'm going to add some Duo Hot Pink from MICA Mama, this one here, just to darken it down a little bit. We're using fluorescent pink or neon pink, and we're using fluorescent pink orange or neon orange, and the green I'm using is Pistachio, which is from You Make It Up, but you can also get this from other companies, and I'll put a link in the description box below to where you can get that, because it seems like You Make It Up don't actually ship to the UK anymore. Right, so now it's time to add our lye solution to our oils, which we've got ready melted in this container. The temperature of the oils is 30 degrees centigrade. So now let's add our lye solution into our oils. Okay, so we're going to start off with the green, as the base, and I'm going to put 1.1 kilos of soap into this jug. Now I actually need 2.2 kilos to fill the base, all of those cupcake bases, but because that doesn't fit into one jug, it would fit into the jug, but it would make it very difficult to pour from, so I'm using 2 jugs. Like so. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoonfuls into each one. Just going to add our fragrance oil in there. I'm not going to do both just in case it has some speed and it accelerates trace, because I want to pour these ones first. Looking good so far. It's very pear dropsy, this Snow Pixie. Pear drops is like a British sweet. Candy that you can get. I don't know if you get them in your country as well, wherever you're watching from. Before we go any further, I just want to say well done to my top 4 viewing countries last month. Number 1 was the USA, number 2 was the UK, number 3 was Canada, and number 4 was India. So hello to all of those countries. I was thinking it'd be good to have each country try and compete to become the number 1 viewer each month, and each month I'll read out whoever comes in the top 4 or 5 or the top 3 or whatever. So hello to all of you, and thank you so much for watching, and thank you for interacting as well as you have. They're stiff enough and thick enough to hold the piping on that we're going to pipe on next. And while I'm doing that, while we're waiting for that, I'll just wash the dishes. Remember, if you are washing dishes with cold processed soap in, you must wear goggles. That's the most dangerous time, is actually when you're washing up, because when you're washing up, the water's splashing up and it's splashing out, and you know, you're being invigorating when you're doing the dishes, and you just want to make sure that none splashes up into your eye, which has happened to me before. And the reason I'm mentioning this is I know I've mentioned it a few times over the years on my channel about when you're doing the dishes, how important it is to wear goggles. But I read on Facebook in one of the groups the other day that someone had done their dishes and they got soap butter in their eye, and they had to go to hospital and everything. It just reminded me to remind you all how important it is to wear your goggles when you're doing your dishes as well. Okay, got that point across. Now let's continue. Okay, so we're going to add some sky blue, which I got from MICA Mama. So I'm just going to add a teaspoonful. I don't want a really, really dense blue. And so we're just going to wait until that thickens up. Many people still send me questions of how do you make cold process soap frosting. Actually, all you do is you just make cold process as you regularly do with a regular recipe, and obviously that soap, as it saponifies, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker until it's so thick you can't do anything with it. So you've got to keep an eye on it. Every single fragrance is going to make a difference to how fast the soap thickens. So you've got to keep your eye on it if it's a fragrance you're not used to using. This one is thickening up fairly slowly, so I would call it a slow to medium trace. So yeah, we're just going to let that thicken and keep stirring it sporadically until it looks like soap frosting, and then we're going to add it into our bag. No special recipe necessary. The recipe for my soap is in the description box below, and probably any cold process soap recipe you make, you'll be able to make frosting with it, unless it's one that accelerates really fast. So the base and the frosting for these cupcake soaps, it's all the same batch. It's just one batch that I mixed in the pot. I separated off so that's how I work it. I work on each layer as I go. So I make the base, I put the fragrance in, then I pour them, then I pour the next layer into the jug, add the fragrance, let it thicken up, pipe it. Once that's piped, then, only then, do I pour the next layer into the next jug, add the fragrance and the colour, and wait for that to thicken up. Because you've no way of telling how long your soap is going to take to thicken up. You can guarantee if you mix both parts, so say I mix this layer now, and I mix the pink layer that I'm going to put on the top, both at the same time but in separate jugs, you can probably guarantee that the pink might set up before the blue, and that's no good whatsoever, because we need to pipe the blue first, and then the blue needs to be solid enough that you can pipe the pink onto the top. Now you could make 3 separate batches if you wanted, but that's a lot of work in my opinion. So this is how I do it. So while we're waiting for the soap to thicken up, I've got 2 bags here, 2 piping bags. They're quite thick plastic. I like the quite thick plastic bags. And I've got a round nozzle here because the next layer is going to be done with the round nozzle. So we're just going to snip a bit off the end of there, and we're going to pop the round nozzle in. Now you want you just want your nozzle to stick out of the end, because if you make your piping bag short and you cut it so that the end of the bag is up here, once your soap is in this bag and you start piping it, it might stretch a little bit and you might end up popping your nozzle out, so that's not going to work. So you just want to, as much of the plastic on as much of the nozzle as you can. And then I'm using a Wilton 1M here to make the topping, because I just love, this is my favourite piping nozzle. And we're just gonna, this is a little bit narrower nozzle at the bottom, so I'm cutting the piping bag a little bit further down. When you put your nozzle into your piping bag, be careful not to let any of those spikes and prongs pierce through your piping bag, because if you do that, then the frosting is going to come out of any hole it possibly can. So that's both of the piping bags ready to go, but we only need this round one for the time being. So I'll pop the Wilton 1M to one side, and we're still waiting for this soap batter to thicken, and as soon as it's ready and is the right thickness, then we're going to place it in the piping bag and we're going to start piping. It's actually weird when you haven't piped for a long time. It feels really weird when you come back to doing it. Okay, so you can see we've just been stirring sporadically and we're getting somewhere now. This mixture is thickening up, but it's still a little bit soft to start piping, but it's not far away. When you're piping with the round nozzle, it's better to be on the softer side than the thicker side. It comes out neater. And this is what the cupcake bases look like now. I don't really want to squeeze them because you could easily squeeze it, but it's nice and firm now, so we can actually pipe on the top. So what I'm going to do, because we're so close to piping stage, I'm going to start putting it into the piping bag. It's definitely still a little bit too soft, but and with the round nozzle you want to try and avoid any air bubbles, which is impossible, but you just want to try and see where this part here is like an air pocket. You want to try and get rid of those. And then by lifting it up and letting it drop down a bit, that'll help as well. Don't overfill your bag too much. And you see it's actually coming out of the bag pretty easy without any squeezing. So that's not quite where I want it to be. I don't want it to just fall out of the bag, because I want to squeeze it out of the bag, because it makes it difficult when you're moving from one cupcake to the next one. Some will drop out and it's bound to drop in the place that you don't want it to drop. But when you're piping with the round nozzle, you always seem to get some air bubbles here and there. So we'll just start here, we'll go around the outside. It kind of falls out of the nozzle a bit, but I am squeezing a little bit as well. Very, very gently squeezing, so I'm sort of letting it fall out, but squeezing gently. It is hard to make these neat, but we will be piping on top of them, so it's only the outside of this. I guess I'm piping a tube. It's only the outside of the tube that you're going to see. So you see we've got quite a bit left in the bag, and you might be thinking 1.1 kilos was too much. Well, actually it wasn't, because I need to fill in all of the centres as well. And making sure you've got some in the centre will hold the rest of the frosting up that goes on the top of the cupcake. If you don't have a centre, the frosting that you pipe on might sink in the middle. You don't want that. There you go. We've literally used all of it because we've pushed our thumb in and squeezed all that was left in that nozzle out. So we've got no waste there. Right, now we're going to mix up the frosting for the top. Okay, so before I do the topping, I just want to test a little bit to see if I can get the colour that I'm actually looking for. So I've got some neon pink here, some neon orange here, and this is the duo hot pink, and I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of each colour in there. We'll just mix in that pink first. And though that orange and pink really does make a beautiful, beautiful pink. Now I've put far too much of the orange in, so this is why I'm testing it. Make sure I get the right quantity in there. And now I'm putting some of that duo hot pink in. Let's see what happens. So it's too dark because I want it paler than that. So I know I need to put less of that orange in and less of the duo hot pink. So let's go in with some of the pink first, the neon pink. Going to put the tiniest amount of the duo hot pink in. And then let's try it teeny weeny bit of the orange. So did you notice there that I hadn't actually added any fragrance? That's because I knew it was going to take a while to get the colour perfect. Now the colour's perfect, I'm adding my fragrance in there. So with your fragrance, you need to check what your usage levels are allowed in the country that you're in. If you're in the EU and the UK, it's about 3%, but you also need to check the actual fragrance oil information. It'll tell you on the STS how much fragrance you're actually allowed to put in any cosmetic, because each one is different now. Some of them you can only put 1% in, which just annoys the heck out of me. It's, when I started it was 5%. It's just getting more and more ridiculous. Yeah, I'm ranting because it winds me up. Other countries have got the, seems like they can basically do whatever they want, put as much fragrance in as they want. We're limited to how much fragrance we put in, and I know there are reasons why, but the reasons have they've just gone beyond anything that's sensible. Same with having to list fragrance oils and colours on your assessment. You have to do that if you're getting a safety assessment made, and I'd love it if someone could take it upon themselves, like to start a petition over that, and take it to Downing Street or something. It doesn't affect me because I don't have the new safety assessments, but having to write a particular fragrance oil on a safety assessment means you always have to buy that fragrance oil from that same supplier. If that supplier stops carrying that fragrance oil, it's not their fault. They just stopped carrying it because it didn't sell very well. But you've paid for an assessment with that fragrance oil, and if you want to change it to another one, you've got to pay at least £25 for every fragrance oil that you want to add. And that is what is wrong with the safety assessments the way they are now. It's a big deal. It's a pain in the neck, and it's just so unfair for all the new manufacturers out there that are wanting to make products. The other thing is, most people are starting these businesses with no money, you know, next to nothing, and you're trying to build up. And if that fragrance oil goes out of stock, but you still want to carry that smell, and you buy it from another company, you've got to pay another £25 at least, mind, I'm talking at least. Some of them charge 48 to add another fragrance oil, and it's daylight robbery, and it's unnecessary. It's absolutely unnecessary. Right, back to the soap. This now, as we did with the blue layer, we're just going to stir it sporadically every couple of minutes until it's the right thickness to pop into our piping bag and pipe on our soap. And let's pipe it onto our soaps. So what you want to do, because you can't leave a hole in the centre, otherwise your frosting will collapse a little bit. So just pipe around the centre, then go around the outside, then move it up for your next layer, and then into the centre and around, and that's what gives you that beautiful rose design. That's what you get on the top. It literally just looks like a rose, doesn't it? And you can only get that by starting in the centre and then going around the edges. So these are our wet soaps, wet cupcake soaps. They will look a little bit different once they've dried. Soap batter tends to be cream when it's saponified. Sometimes yellow, sometimes green, just depends what oils and butters you use in your recipe. But all these colours will actually dry a little lighter than they actually look at the moment, because I guess it's like pink mixed with white, blue mixed with white, green mixed with white. So they're going to be a little bit more pastelified once they've saponified. Now it's time to let them saponify overnight. We'll unmold them tomorrow, and for you, that's right now. don't they look pretty? We've got no discoloration yet, but I didn't expect any because the other Snow Fairy that I use from the soap kitchen, it doesn't discolour straight away. It usually takes a few weeks for it to start discolouring. But anyway, I do think they look so gorgeous, and I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. I'll see you very soon for another video from Eden Secret. Any links for anything that I've used in this video and in the description box below. I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye for now.